from Tehran. Government officials, foreign dignitaries, members of the public mourning the death of President Ebrahim Raisi. There was a service earlier today, but what you're looking at here is what's being called a commemorative service for foreign dignitaries, and they are lining up to pay respects for the former president, for the foreign minister, and for the other government officials, and then a receiving line, if you will. That is he was formerly the vice president, Mohammed Mokbar. He has been appointed the acting president, and he is receiving those foreign dignitaries as they pay respects. We know that the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah attended the funeral service earlier today. In addition to 5 days of official mourning, the cultural ministry has suspended cultural and artistic activities for 7 days. That means no sporting events, no concerts, no weddings, all postponed until after the mourning period. The funeral procession has already moved through the streets of Tehran between Revolution Square and Freedom Square. Crowds of mourners were surrounding the coffins at the time, and Rebecca Collard, watching all of this unfold, brings us the very latest.
Again this morning, Heather, we see this massive outpouring of grief. What looks like tens of thousands of Iranians dressed mostly in black in the streets of Tehran, following these coffins being brought from Revolution Square to Freedom Square, very symbolic squares in the center of Tehran. But I think what's really different today is these foreign dignitaries that you just mentioned. So we have both heads of state, foreign ministers, other foreign dignitaries from countries like Afghanistan, Egypt, Turkey. So both the countries that Iran is allied with, but also countries that are neighboring Iran. And the other thing, and I think this is really important, that you just mentioned as well, Heather, not only are there foreign dignitaries and heads of state, there are heads and leaders of militant groups, including Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas, and also representatives from Hezbollah. And these organizations are part of, what Iran calls the axis of resistance, so a kind of network of states and militant groups across the region that coordinate. And I think that when you look at who is there today, Heather, it really gives you an idea of the foreign policy that Iran led under Ebrahim Raisi, because of course what's notably missing is Western leaders, Western European leaders, North American leaders. What we're really seeing is the sort of countries that Iran had been looking to build relations with. And the last thing I'll say is, the Iranian authorities said that they put out a notice for warning people not to try to protest this event, not to post any insults online, because as you know, as we talked about yesterday as well, Ebrahim Raisi was responsible for decades of crackdown on dissent and on protest inside the country, Heather.
So we know that he was a close ally of the supreme leader, Rebecca. He was seen by many as a potential successor to Ali Khamenei. So what impact will Raisi's death have on the political situation in Iran and on the lives of the people in the country as well?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Heather. And really what I would say is what we've been seeing since Sunday, when this plane first went missing, both from the supreme leader but also from other senior leaders, is Iran trying to really project a level of stability, that there will be continuity. We already have Mohammed Mokbar, the vice president, taking the position of president, and really trying to project this stability, not just to its regional foes or global foes, but also to people inside Iran, because, of course, there has been unprecedented protests in the last year and a half against the Iranian regime. Now, what's going to happen next is that there will be presidential elections. Now, those will take place in 50 days, so the end of June. And before that, Heather, in the middle of June, Iranians will be able to put forth their candidacy to run for president. But just to be clear about how this process works, Iranians that want to run for the position of president are then vetted by something called the Guardian Council, and the Guardian Council then chooses who is allowed to run for president. So it gives you an idea of exactly how democratic that process is. And I think what Iran's leadership and Iran's regime are going to be looking for in those elections is really voter turnout. In authoritarian regimes like this and others that I covered, when the process is not really democratic, often what leaders are looking for is high voter turnout to kind of show legitimacy and show that people are really wanting to participate in their government. And recent elections in Iran have had relatively low voter turnout. The last parliamentary elections had voter turnout around 40%, which does not look good for the regime. But like I said, what we're seeing from Iran's supreme leader, from the leadership, is really trying to project this idea of continuity and stability inside Iran. Heather?
Rebecca, thank you very much. Now, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency says the death of Raisi has brought talks with Iran to a temporary halt. The nuclear watchdog has been trying to expand their inspections of Iranian facilities, but it's meeting with resistance. Now, the IAEA chief says they're respecting the mourning period, but hope the interruption will be over in that matter of 5 days.